Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for joining my live stream. I am your host, SharionSade, and I hope you guys are ready for a good time. I apologize for moving the live stream a couple of times this week. I'm in Texas again, so y'all know it froze over. Everything came to a halt. Everybody was at home and the Wi-Fi was horrible. So I had to move this, and my husband was here too. And y'all know he likes to talk loud on work calls. So I was like, I'm not going to put them through that, but it is good to finally be able to reconvene. I hope y'all had a wonderful week and are staying warm and are staying safe amidst all of the stuff that's going on. Also, at the time of recording this, Don Lemon has been arrested. And he is in federal custody. So free Don Lemon. Hopefully by the time this finishes publishing and this is complete, he will be free. Now, anyway, we have three main topics to get into today. Now, earlier this week, or excuse me, late last week, it was announced that, no, it was this week. Prince Harry's stalker was mere feet behind him in court. And y'all know I wanted to wait until the live stream to talk about that because that is absolutely insane. I could not believe that. First of all, if there were ever a better case for security, I guess she helped make that case because my goodness, I cannot believe someone who has been not only following him around London, but this woman even or this person, I keep saying woman, but I don't know. They refer to her as her, so I'm assuming. But this person also followed him to Nigeria. Like, this is a serious stalking issue. Anyway, we're going to get into that. I have a lot of thoughts. And then there has been this little debate brewing that William and Kate have been heckled at several events. Most recently, it was caught on video. Now, the man who was recording the video also happened to be the man doing the heckling. When I tell you, I had myself a really good laugh watching that video for several reasons, but the way he was yelling at those phones, I can't even watch it without cracking up. Like, it is so funny. Anyway, we're going to watch that and we're going to share that. And then also, we have to get into this conversation about Rob Shooter and his many insider takes and his insider information that he likes to release. And I use release very loosely, considering he's just posting on Substack. Nothing wrong with Substack, but I take everything that those people and the quote unquote sources that they claim to have, I take it with a grain of salt. But because he allegedly reported that King Charles is going to offer Harry and Meghan Balmoral Castle anytime they travel to the UK for family events. This is something Rob Shooter is saying now. Take that with a grain of salt now. It has spawned this conversation about forgiveness. Now, if you're on Patreon, you heard my thoughts on that. But it spawned this conversation saying that this is Charles's way of extending an olive branch and Harry and Meghan's way of receiving it so that they can get forgiveness. And that nearly sent me through the roof. Now, I typically don't let a whole lot bother me anymore regarding these situations because, in my opinion, Harry and Meghan their points have been proven several times over. Every single thing they said has come to pass and the receipts have come out. They have been vindicated time and time again. There is nothing to debate. They were the victims in the situation. They were harmed. They are still consistently being aggrieved by those people. And the narrative is persistent that they need forgiveness. And I'm like, forgiveness for what? Telling the truth? Anyway, y'all, I said we're going to get to it. Not right now, Sharion. Calm it down. You would think after sitting on this live stream in these segments for a week, I would be calmer. But every time I think about it, it just annoys me. The audacity to do something to me and then for people to say, well, you should earn your abuser's forgiveness. See, it's times like that where I feel like there should be certain times where you should be allowed to kick somebody in the side of the head with a boot and it be okay. And no charges can be filed when people say and do silly things like that. We have so much to get into. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this live stream. Subscribe to the channel if you have not, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. And I want to give a couple of shout outs. Hi, Church Nelly. Thank you so much for being here. And congratulations. And thank you so much for being a member for 36 months. I really appreciate that. Now, y'all know YouTube likes to fudge the numbers. I feel like you've been a member since way longer than that, but I'm gonna give you the credit because I feel like you were my first subscriber or first member. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, hey everybody. It's good to see you. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Hi, Vivek. Oh my goodness. Hi, Rositas. It's good to see you. Thank you so much, Kat Harlem. You know I love your hat. Thank you so much for is this a super chat? It says, hello, Sharion and Squatties. I had a facial and massage today. Now I'm under the dryer at the beauty salon. It's a pamper me day. And thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. Not you pampering me as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, no, I get it. You're misspelling. Girl, you under the dryer. I appreciate you even being present. Don't worry about spelling. We can figure it out. Thank you. And hi, Rositas. Rositas says, Charles is the one who needs to be working towards forgiveness, not the Sussexes. You know what? I want to thank you so much for this comment. I want to highlight this and put this on a billboard and put it right outside of Buckingham Palace. I want to be petty. If I had the funds to be the pettiest of petty, I wouldn't be on live stream. I would be out there causing hell. And this is exactly why people have what they have, because I would be a whole menace if I could. Anyway, let's get to the first segment. Keep the live chat going and we will continue discussions on the other side. First topic, we'll be leaning on Feminagra. They have an article titled Prince Harry's Stalker Sat Meters Behind Him During High Court Hearing. This is written by Miss Historian. Now, when this first came out, I wanted to do a standalone video initially, but I absolutely wanted to get your feedback in real time, so I saved it for the live stream. But this is a couple of days behind. A known stalker sat just meters away from Prince Harry during 2 days of his high court appearance last week, the Telegraph reported. The woman, described as a fixated individual known to his security team, attended the public gallery while the Duke was present for the opening of his privacy trial against the publisher of the Daily Fail. The incident occurred as Harry was in London to give evidence in his legal case against Associated Newspapers Limited, raising renewed attention on his security arrangements in the UK and an ongoing government-ordered risk review. Quote, it can now be revealed that the known stalker, who it is understood may be suffering from mental health issues, attended the hearing on 2 of the 4 days the Duke was in court, taking a seat in the public gallery just a few meters behind him. On both occasions, the woman, who was on a list of known fixated individuals drawn up by a private intelligence company for the Duke, was immediately noticed by his private security team, which in turn alerted court security staff. I'm glad they acted swiftly, but this also just continues to highlight the point that no one, especially someone with this type of information surrounding them, should be getting this close to Prince Harry. A source close to the Duke said, quote, there is nothing they could do. They are not the police. It's a public building and she has a right to be there, they added. He is obviously always worried about his security situation. It's not ideal. The incident coincided with an ongoing review of the security threat posed to the Duke, which was ordered by the Home Office in December, per the Telegraph. The woman attended the High Court on 2 of the 4 days Prince Harry was present, taking a seat in the public gallery a short distance behind him. His private security team immediately recognized her after a private intelligence company had previously placed her on a list of known fixated individuals. Prince Harry's private security alerted court officials on both occasions. No removal followed, as the High Court is a public building and no criminal offense was reported at the time. A source close to the Duke said there was nothing his team could do beyond notifying court security. The Duke was attending the opening of his privacy trial and later returned to give evidence, during which he alleged that journalists working for Associated Newspapers had intruded into his private life and made his wife's life an absolute misery. According to security sources cited in the report, the same woman has previously appeared near Prince Harry at multiple events. Last September, she accessed a secure zone at the Central London Hotel during the Well Child Awards, where Prince Harry was a guest. 2 days later, security sources saw her close to Prince Harry at the Center for Blast Injury Studies in West London. The woman had also previously followed the Duke during an overseas visit to Nigeria. My goodness. These incidents were cited as evidence of repeated proximity breaches rather than a single occurrence. Prince Harry returned to the United States shortly after the court hearings to attend the Sundance Film Festival with his wife, Meghan Sussex, for the premiere of Cookie Queens, a documentary they both executive produced. The courtroom incident coincided with an ongoing review of the security threat facing Prince Harry, ordered by the Home Office in December. The Risk Management Board is conducting the review and will submit its recommendations to the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, which oversees protection decisions for senior figures. Former UK counterterrorism chief Neil Basu said that repeated appearances by a known stalker would be incredibly anxiety-inducing and warned that fixation can escalate unpredictably. He said that Prince Harry last received a full risk assessment in 2019, when he was still a working member of the royal family, and authorities rated him at the highest threat level. A final decision on the Duke's security arrangements is not expected for several weeks. The outcome is likely to affect his future UK visits, including planned appearances ahead of the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. It's actually pretty terrifying to think that there are people out there with this type of fixation, but we see it every day. And unfortunately, we have actually seen when this goes left, and it can go left really quickly. I'm glad that Prince Harry's security team, as much as he's allowed, is on top of it. And I'm glad that they're working with what they have, but clearly it's not enough. It's one thing to follow someone all around Europe. That is bad. That's horrible. And that should be more than enough of a reason to recognize that his life is in consistent danger. But to then follow him to Nigeria and who knows where else? These are just the instances that they recognized her. Wigs exist, shades exist, makeup exists, heels exist to change the height of a person. You never really know where a person like this will be. And again, I love and I appreciate that they recognize that this person may be dealing with a mental illness. That is not to say that she might not also be dangerous. Now, those two things are not synonymous, but they should be recognized that if a person is fixated in this way, it can escalate. And having a mental illness is not a reason to assume someone is violent. It's also not a reason to discredit what could be possible and what they could possibly do. It's simple information. So I hope that they are taking all the precautions necessary, and I hope that Prince Harry is as safe as he can possibly be. And I really hope that this is yet another example of why he should have armed security whenever he is in the UK. Not to mention, something that crossed my mind is, in addition to not really knowing how many times she's actually been present, but they just didn't recognize her, I often wonder if I'm on any lists. And I wonder if there's a way to find that out. I've never stalked anyone. I've never been interested in stalking anyone. And that's just not who I am. I'm not shaming anybody, but stalking is horrible. But I'm not shaming anyone with mental illness who may have tendencies and things like that. I hope they get the help they need, because everyone deserves to live a life where they feel safe and comfortable and they are not intruded upon. Stalking is a heinous crime. It's often minimized and dismissed and belittled, but it is a very heinous crime. Voyeurism of any kind is extremely heinous. It strips you of your safety and your sense of safety, your ability to trust. It is traumatic. So I pray for anyone who's ever been through that. But I wonder if I've ever been on any list because of things that I've said on my platforms, because sometimes I will shoot my mouth off, and I wonder if anyone has ever said, risky individual. I'm pretty sure if there's a list of loudmouth country folk, I'm on that one for sure. But if I'm on any other lists, I would love to know. But in the meantime, beyond that, I am curious as to what can be done. And if this information will be factored into their review, I hope it is. But I'm kind of recognizing that what seems like common sense and what seems like it makes enough sense to be considered, the people in those positions, especially as it pertains to Harry and Meghan's security, or Harry specifically, it doesn't seem like they always operate from the most quote common sense place. No offense to them, but his security should have never been stripped. It should not even be taking this long to reinstate. It shouldn't take a review. I feel like it's such a duh kind of moment. But let me not be mean, because I hope they make the right decision. And then once they do make the right decision, I'm going to put that energy out there. Once they make the right decision and reinstate Prince Harry's full security, armed security, etc., then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk mess together. But let's let him get through the review first. Y'all let me know your thoughts on this. Also, does anyone know the person's name? Has their name been floating around anywhere? Does anyone know who this person is? Let me know. So, anywho, for me, I just feel like once it gets to the point where somebody has followed you from one location to another, that's serious enough. But when you are following me to different countries, there has to be more that can be done. I mean, even being able to sit in the courtroom very close to him, I just feel like there's way too much access. And that does give me pause. But I'm glad that they have noted what this person looks like, and they have an idea of them, or an ID, and they are on a list and they can monitor the situation. But that is crazy that they got that close. I'm not gonna lie, that bothers me. Actually, tomorrow I have a video coming out. I know I usually don't post on Saturdays, but I have a video coming out about fixation in general, and Patreon, we talked about that pretty in depth the other day. But the harms of people getting fixated on one individual and the danger that actually comes from that. But also, one woman, she was so fixated on Meghan and hating Meghan Sussex that her husband divorced her. So I have a whole video coming out about that, as well as his updates, because he's been updating throughout the process of divorce. But one woman, she got scammed. She got scammed by someone she called a royal reporter. And I'm really curious as to who that was. But a royal reporter was accepting or soliciting money from this woman to hire a PI, a private investigator, to dig up dirt on Meghan. Is that not insane? Once you've gotten to that point, honestly, once you've started engaging with those hate-filled channels and reporters and all that, you need to get yourself checked out, and probably checked into an inpatient facility, because it's already too deeply rooted to address at home, I'm assuming. But the fact that this woman's husband was so concerned about her that he has already filed for divorce. It's a whole story, and we're going to get into it tomorrow. But the fixation of it all, this woman ended up getting so upset that her husband confronted her. She physically attacked him, got arrested, is losing her husband. She's been spending lots and lots of money. He said that she was neglecting their child. She started pulling money out of their college fund for their child, their 6-year-old, to pay this royal blogger or royal reporter to hire a PI for Meghan. And all the person was doing, the royal reporter, was sending this woman articles about Meghan, just gossip articles about her, and saying that the PI had dug up this information. Y'all, I cannot tell you how insane that is. I could barely form the words. When I read that, I said, this has to be a joke. And then I kept reading and I said, oh my goodness, pray for the husband and daughter. Because the husband was completely disgusted and shocked, and he couldn't believe it. He said she started off as this normal, healthy woman, and she was so kind and sweet, and she didn't have these negative beliefs. And then she started engaging with these hate-filled channels, and she started watching these channels and reading these blogs and staying stuck in these Reddits. And it just got to a point where that's all she would talk about. John, they done lost family. There's family that won't even call because they don't want to talk to her, because they said they can't reach her. There's nothing behind the eyes. And so I say this: compassion to all involved, with the exception of the one pushing out the hate. Everybody else in that vicinity, because it is so hard to be around a person like that. A person who's fixated on something, especially something negative, it is really difficult to be around them. So I pray for that daughter and that husband, and good for him for saying, I'm protecting my daughter. I don't want her growing up around someone who's neglecting her, or someone who's racist, or someone who's fixated on someone else and trying to harm this woman. He said he genuinely didn't get it. And when he talked to her, he said, why are you doing this? And she was like, I need to dig up dirt on Meghan Markle. And the way he described it, I said, that's exactly how I picture those folks. That's exactly what I think of. When I picture those people at home, that is what I think of. Those just blank, nothing behind the eyes type of people. So those fixations are dangerous. And he's doing the right thing by not being passive about it. Protect your kids. That's how, because that can be taught and passed on. That woman's fixation and hatred. He also said she was using it as an avenue to just essentially hate women of color in general. Did we not already say that? Did we not say Meghan was they were using her as a proxy to just express hate in general? We've been saying it, but I'm glad that he's doing the right thing. And that woman is in jail. She owes money and she's getting a divorce all because she hate Meghan. Meanwhile, Meghan's somewhere sipping sun tea with her feet up, living her best life. You love to see it. Anyway, these fixations actually scare me though, and they continue to reiterate and make the case for security. They have to be safe. These people, there are people out there who will willingly do harm. And just like I made the point, we'll get into depth into tomorrow because there's so much more. But if a person is willing to cause harm to themselves or neglect themselves and their household and their loved ones because they hate you, they are more than happy to harm you. When you are working with an individual like that, the only thing you can do is protect yourself. You can't reason with somebody like that. That takes a professional and probably a team of them and maybe a little bit more. But you can't get through to a person like that. So good for him for reading the writings on the wall and saying my daughter's safety comes first. But my heart goes out to him. That has to be pretty terrifying. Before we move to the next segment, I just found out that Catherine O'Hara has passed away. So I just wanted to post that so I didn't forget. But rest in peace to Catherine O'Hara. I'm literally in the middle of a Schitt's Creek binge right now. So I just want to say rest in peace to her. That's horrible. Hi, Shelly Miranda. Shelly Miranda says, hey, y'all, hope everyone's staying warm. His Royal Highness security will be reinstated. Yes, let's put that out there. Thank you so much, Shelly. It absolutely will. It certainly should be. Should have never been stripped. I'm not going to go on a tangent. I promise y'all. I'm getting off my soapbox, but y'all know how I feel so strongly about that. But then these fixation stories only continue to make me feel that way. Hi, Rositas Cositas. It says it is a duh moment. She says it is a duh moment. The first duh is that his security shouldn't have been removed in the first place. Yes. Now they have to pretend to follow procedures that they didn't before in order to reinstate it. Yep, they're trying to save face. You are absolutely right. What bothers me is they know we see right through them. This is for their own ego stroke because we see right through them. We know how dumb the whole thing has been since the beginning, but it was a dumb decision that could have had heinous consequences. And that's what upsets me because it's not just a fly in the milk. This isn't an accident. This isn't just like a mishap. This could have resulted in the end of several people's lives. They're playing with his life. That's why I don't take it lightly, but you're right. They were trying to walk it back, but make it seem like it was all part of a process. No, y'all were trying to bully and harm that man and his wife and child. You cannot convince me otherwise. Absolutely. Hi, Connie Balmer. Connie Balmer says, we rebuke all of that in the name of Jesus. Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. All right, y'all, let's move to the next segment. Keep the live chat going strong, and I will continue the conversation on the other side. Segment. This story is also coming to us from Feminegra. It's written by Miss Historian, and it's titled William and Kate Heckled over Andrew and Epstein during Scotland visit as police step in. You know, again, I understand that Prince Harry's security is under review, and I get all that. I get all the details and the info, but it's kind of frustrating to see that the police stepped in over heckling when a whole stalker is following Prince Harry everywhere, including a courthouse. It's like, oh my goodness. A couple of words do suck, but I don't think they're worse than someone actually stalking you in a high court, by the way. Prince William and Kate Middleton did not expect to be heckled on routine visit to Scotland. On January 20th, protesters cut through the security cordon and directed pointed questions at Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. The exchange was sharp and public, yet major news outlets moved quickly past it. A moment that laid bare public anger was softened, shortened, or sidelined altogether. The confrontation unfolded as Prince William arrived with Kate Middleton for a public engagement. From across the road, a protester shouted questions about Andrew's ties to Epstein and demanded answers. Police moved quickly, citing children nearby, while bystanders shouted back at the heckler. The exchange turned intense and unmistakable.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you been covering up for Andrew?
Hey, go away, man. Go away. That's enough. There's children here, right? Police officer, right? Carry on, you can be arrested for breach of peace. Okay.
How long have
I'm sorry. I hate that the children had to hear that nearby. Now that I do understand, but I don't know why, but something about the way that man was shouting it with his whole chest is taking me out. But yes, I agree. Like they should be called out. Now, I would have preferred that he looked around to make sure children weren't present. I also understand the urgency and wanting to put that out there because yes, they have been able to just move past the whole Andrew and Epstein thing and they treated it like a little blip. And instead of a very, very real heinous crime that their uncle was part of, and they have continued to support him throughout the years. Coverage focused on the disruption and the security response. Outlets described a rare breach of the usual royal script. The optics told a different story. This was not a random outburst. The questions were specific, current, and rooted in a scandal the palace insists belongs to the past. The anger did not emerge in a vacuum. In October 2025, Virginia Giuffre reignited scrutiny with her memoir. She alleged that her 2019 interview detailing claims against Prince Andrew never aired after palace pressure on ABC News. The fear, she wrote, was losing access to the monarchy's most valuable figures. I think it's important to pause there, and they specifically named William and Kate. Amy Robach specifically said William and Kate were the figures that they would lose access to if they aired the interview with Virginia Giuffre. Those claims align with leaked footage recorded in August 2019 and made public that November, in which Amy Robach expressed frustration that palace pressure had derailed the story, saying the network was threatened a million different ways. She explained that editors hesitated because future interviews with Prince William and Kate were at risk, laying bare a calculation that prioritized royal access over airing allegations. In 2023, William and Kate were photographed on a family outing with Prince Andrew at Balmoral, a moment widely circulated as unity despite his withdrawal from public duties. That same year, commentators claimed the Waleses would prefer Andrew as a neighbor over Harry and Meghan. Those flashes of proximity have lingered in public memory. It says a lot, and I want to remind everyone, they have a daughter. They have 3 children, but they have a daughter. The heckling cuts through a long-standing narrative that polling strength shields the Prince and Princess of Wales from public anger, because despite consistently positive survey results, frustration surfaced openly in Scotland and attached itself to unresolved questions about Andrew rather than familiar media scapegoats. The contrast is striking, particularly when set against Prince Harry's recent court appearances, which have passed with largely calm receptions, even as commentary continues to frame him as unpopular, exposing a growing gap between headline polling and lived public response. The police intervention added another dimension, with officers warning protesters about arrest despite the fact that modern cases of royal heckling rarely result in convictions, a reality underscored by the historical record showing the last successful prosecution dating back to 1796. Contemporary arrests tend to dissolve once media attention fades, creating a deterrent effect that suppresses dissent without delivering legal resolution and reinforcing the perception that control rather than accountability remains the priority. William's apparent strategy of avoiding hostile tabloids while his brother confronts them in court has done little to quiet these frustrations, because the public questions raised in Scotland spoke directly to years of image management and selective protection. The tone was blunt because patience has worn thin, and the palace's preference for managing appearances over addressing substance has left a vacuum that public anger is now filling. This is yet another aspect of being a public figure. This is part of the process. This is part of what comes with the job. And they always love touting this. They're dutiful people and they're all about the role and they're all about the job. But then they can't even take a little bit of commentary. They manufacture headlines to try and sway the public. They don't want to know what people really think of them. They don't want to know what people really feel about them. They don't really want to know people's authentic reception and perception of them. They want to manufacture and curate it because they are inauthentic. They don't really care that people are raising eyebrows at the fact that they are so chummy with Prince Andrew because they don't mind Prince Andrew. They don't mind what he's accused of. And in my opinion, there may be more to that. Why are you so passive with a predator in your midst? and you have kids. The things that people say about people in positions such as this, and the trade-off and the willingness to allow and the turning of heads as long as there's power and money, those things aren't coming from nowhere. And seeing how they are so passive with their uncle who has been accused and has had so much proof roll out supporting the claims of those who are accusing him and his victims, seeing how passive they are about those things raises a lot of concerns for me, not just for them as human beings, but they are parents. So with that in mind, do I think they deserve to be called out? They're not responsible for Prince Andrew, but that's part of what happens when you publicly support someone or you remain silent when someone should absolutely be condemned for their behavior. This is a moment to share your values. This is a moment to share what you are rooted in. Who are you? What character, or who is this character that you're portraying? Or what is your actual opinion? Where are you rooted? I can assure you, I have had people in my own family who have been accused of things. I made my stance known, burn bridges, don't really care. If there is a reason to believe that you are harming the innocent, I have every reason to stand with the victims. I have every reason to stand with them. I have every reason to defend them and support them. There is no reason to pal around with an abuser of any kind, but especially an abuser who harms the innocent, children, the elderly, and animals. People who do things like that are heinous people. I don't find it to be easy to turn the other cheek, but to turn the other way and to look away from something like that. I wouldn't want to. I want to know who those people are. I want to stay a million miles away from them. I want them to be prosecuted. I want them to serve time. I want them to have to answer for what they've done. I want victims to receive justice. I don't care if I've known your abuser many, many years longer than you, and he was once helpful to me and changed my tire and gave me $10 for a book. I don't give a damn. If someone harmed you, justice should be served. I don't care what their relationship status is to anyone else. I don't care how great they are. You are never great enough to enough people to be harmful to one. Period. I don't understand that the moment abusers or the moment victims say, oh, this person harmed me, the first thing out of people's mouths, but the first thing out of people's mouths is, oh, I never saw that in them. They never did that to me. Abusers don't abuse everyone. There are so many social dynamics at play. There are so many situations at play. It has to be possible for them to abuse, and they choose their victims on purpose. They choose people who they feel they will be able to have social clout over, someone that is vulnerable that they can oppress, someone who they can suppress, someone who they will be believed over. They don't harm everyone. There are people in my family, in my distant family, who have been harmed. And a lot of times the people who were harmed, I was around those children. And when I became older and found out what happened to them, it did cross my mind of, I wonder how they selected that person over myself or over my sister or over my other cousins. Why that person? And then it dawned on me, there are 1,000,001 different reasons why I would not have been selected, or my sister or my other cousins. We had parents who were very vocal and very protective. I have 1,000,001 male cousins who will happily take care of whatever needs to be taken care of if I even look like I'm uncomfortable. I have several uncles who are more than happy to put their freedom on the line, if you catch my drift. I have grandparents, grandfathers who are more than happy to do whatever's needed to be done. There are so many social dynamics at play. There are so many dynamics at play in general. To look at a victim and say, well, it didn't happen to me. Well, aren't you blessed? Aren't you lucky? Shouldn't you be grateful? But just because that wasn't your experience doesn't mean it wasn't an experience someone else had to have. And how unfair to that person that instead of focusing on what they experienced, you turned their experience into a conversation about yourself. How disgusting. When people do that, in my opinion, when people do that, I low-key wonder if they already knew and they're just trying to absolve their own guilt, or they're just trying to distance themselves from the accusation. It's hard not to think that, because if someone has ever disclosed something to you about someone else that you know, it's fair to be shocked. It's fair to question it. It's fair to be surprised. It's not fair to belittle them. It's not fair to dismiss them. It's not fair to ignore them. It's not fair to try and disarm them and convince them otherwise or gaslight them. It's important that you're there for them. And if you aren't capable, point them in the right direction to someone who can support them and help them or get them the help they need. It is not cool to belittle or minimize. The last time we talked about this, and I said, I don't understand the whole, well, that's family, so we're going to support our family even if they abuse others. I don't understand that, and I don't stand with that. I've had people in my family who've caused harm, and I am happy to excommunicate them, and whatever I can contribute to them having to pay for their crimes, I will contribute. And I will never forget, I received a comment of someone saying, well, if someone in your family is harming others, if someone is molesting or abusing, isn't that more of a reason to embrace them, to help them through their sickness? Y'all, I don't know that I've ever spoken to anyone in this world the way I spoke to that commenter. And I left that comment up long enough to know that they read it, and then I blocked them. But I wanted them to receive that piece of my mind, that part of my mind that I rarely travel to. I said, let me go downstairs to the basement, child. Let me access this part of my brain that I put away, because they deserve some of these words that I've stowed away. Because no, I will never prioritize abusers over the victims, ever. Do I think people need help? Yep. For a multitude of things. Yep. Do I feel like some people can be redeemed? Sure. Is that my concern when someone has been harmed? No. My concern is the person who's been harmed. My concern is keeping everyone safe. My concern is making sure the abuser has to experience justice. Those are my concerns. Can they get help in the process of receiving justice? Sure. Yeah, of course. But I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm keeping the people who need to be safe, and I'm wanting to support the victim. That is my concern. I was so shocked when I saw that. I said, how did you find this channel with that kind of mindset? Oh, God. No, we don't do the let's pacify Andrew thing. And I mean, they left me quite a tale. Andrew is just a product of his time. You have to understand that he's probably raised to believe that this was okay. And I was reading that, and y'all, I felt like gouging my eyes out, that my eyes laid upon those types of words, placed in those positions to say those things. I was absolutely disgusted. Anyway, William and Kate are not responsible for Andrew, but this is the price you pay when you stand with abusers. And may they receive a lot more heckling. Y'all, keep your babies at home when William and Kate are out and about. I know you want to see royals, but go look at royals who don't enable abusers. And honestly, if a person has already stood with another person who has abused others, especially children, why are you taking your kids to see them? They're enablers. They're enabling child abuse. Why are your kids there? So many questions, so little time. What are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. So I get really passionate about that topic. I genuinely dislike the normalization of harming vulnerable parties, especially children. I feel like right now, and I'm saying this as an American, with eyes and ears and a brain, and I can see and take in everything that's going on. And I'm aware of the people who stole the election and are in office right now and what they are accused of. I also read Nobody's Girl by Virginia Giuffre, and I recapped that over on not Patreon, on the member side here. And I recapped that. And it just feels like there is a strong push right now to minimize the impact of what abusers do and what they cause. It feels like there's this attempt to normalize harming children and underage people, or just trafficking in general, to be fair. I mean, it's horrible that children are being trafficked. That's a whole nother layer of just disgusting and sad and pathetic and terrifying, to be real, that there are people out there who can actually do something like that, something so heinous. But trafficking in general, harming people in general, abusing people in general, it feels like there's this push to normalize it. And every time people stand with an abuser or stay silent within proximity to an abuser and they don't make their stance known, I feel like they are telling their fan base what they are and are not okay with, which is why I was so happy when we read Spare together and Prince Harry outright discussed that Prince Andrew had been accused of sex crimes, and he called out the hypocrisy of pulling his security but not Prince Andrew's, and how insane that was. And he was absolutely right. The fact that it's taken so much public outcry and so many more instances of Andrew being revealed and the multitudes of layers of things that he has done coming out slowly over time, and of course Virginia Giuffre putting it out plainly in her book, Every time something new comes out or more information comes out or more details come out, then they want to quote unquote up the ante on his punishment. And I am using punishment very lightly. He has not been punished. He has not had to, in my opinion, he has not had to, um, he hasn't received the consequences that he deserves. You mean to tell me that getting to go stay in another multi-million dollar property without having to have a job and without having to do any kind of community work, without having to pay a pittance of any real kind? I mean, these people have money coming out of their ears. They have access to money all over. Like, money is not a real punishment for a crime like that. He's never paid for his crimes. Every time William and Kate have let Andrew drive them to church or walk into church with them or sit next to them or engage with them. I mean, this photo was taken just a couple of months ago. Of course, everybody in it looks uncomfortable, but every time they stand with that man, they are letting the world know what they are and are not okay with. And they are okay with pedophilia. They have children. That should alarm everybody. A little bit of heckling here and there, that doesn't even begin to tip the iceberg of what all of those people who are standing with him and all the other crimes and injustices that they've committed, that doesn't even begin to tip the iceberg of what they should be experiencing. There should be an absolute revolt. There should be real problems on those people's heads. Because what I read, and if you read along with me, if you're a member of the channel and you watch those recaps, feel free to let me know in the live chat. I'd like to shout you out. When we read that together, I had to take a mean break right afterwards because I thought I was prepared for what I would read, and I still was shocked. And believe me, I've been keeping up with all of it. I still was shocked. Hell isn't hot enough for these people. So I don't find that Andrew has paid the cost at all. And I don't care that any of the royals who are standing with him get a little bit of heckling or get their little fifis hurt because they were a little uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. And the hypocrisy of someone saying, please don't yell at these folks for standing with a pedophile. There are children nearby. I wanted that man to look at him and say, exactly. You're right. I care about the well-being of children, which is why I'm upset with them for standing with a pedophile. You are absolutely right. I wanted him to turn that back around so bad. No, the kid didn't have to sit and deal with that. But anybody taking their child to see people who stand with pedophiles, I'm looking at you crazy. Anyway, what are y'all's thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. I also wanted to point out this comment that Gwen Stevenson left. Hi, Gwen Stevenson. I hope you're having a great day. Gwen Stevenson says, fixations are dangerous. I remember the killing of a popular female star. Yes, exactly. And I cannot remember her name, and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I do not remember her name, but she was literally just doing a meet and greet. She was just getting started, and someone harmed her. And wasn't John Lennon harmed by someone with a fixation? So much, this person was so fixated that when it came out that John Lennon was shot, his wife said, oh no, I hope it's not into her husband's name here. Like, she immediately knew that her husband was probably the person because of how fixated he was on John Lennon. It's insane. Hi, Veronica Quick. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining. And exactly, Selena. Yeah. She was also harmed. Now, she was harmed by a friend who was trying to get out of accountability for stealing from her. But yes, that is a fixation. After what happened to Selena, after learning about that story and kind of growing up with that story, becoming an adult and looking into that in retrospect and looking at all the photos of, I cannot remember that woman's name, and it'll come to me in the middle of the night and I'm gonna wake up angry. The woman who killed Selena, Yolanda Salazar. Anyway, becoming an adult and looking back on that situation and seeing all the photos of Selena with Yolanda and how she would always be looking, and a lot of times looking at her like almost with like an evil eye. I will say this, never to victim blame ever. Some people just mean harm. And you can't walk around paranoid. You can't walk around with a chip on your shoulder. We have to be able to live our lives. But something I will say is sometimes we can recognize that someone is jealous or has a chip on their shoulder about us or feels away. And something I'm very guilty of in the past, not anymore, is I used to try to love people through that. I've had a number of friends or people close to me. Saldivar. Thank you, Rositas Cositas. I said Salazar. You are absolutely right. It's Yolanda Saldivar. Thank you so much. I done called that woman everything but what she is, a murderer. But no, sometimes we can try to love people through that or be patient with people through that, especially when it's happened more than once. You can recognize like everybody feels a pang of jealousy here or there. And maybe if we get close enough or they see that I'm a good person, they'll release that. That is a personal journey and not one in which you can assist. It is extremely dangerous to stay in proximity to someone who is envious of you. An envious person will go to the end of the earth to harm you because what they're doing is projecting out what they don't feel inside, and that is self-love. What they are doing is angry at you because you are loved. What they are doing is being angry at you because you have a light that they don't see in themselves. I feel like everybody has something special. I feel like everybody is special in some way or has the potential to be. But when you don't do the self-work to reveal that and find that and covet that and hold that for yourself, you will spend a lifetime trying to dim it in others. And when we recognize that someone might have that little bug, get away from them because they will stop at nothing to harm you. Selena's story, I still get bent out of shape about that. That is one of the most heartbreaking stories I've ever heard because it wasn't a tragic accident. That was an intentional harming by someone she knew and tried to help. My God. And she was just getting started. All of it so sad. But to reiterate the point, fixations are dangerous. Never undermine or belittle or minimize the impact of what a fixation can do to a person because it's an indicator of something deeper, something worse going on. And until you know, if you're not a mental health professional, you cannot spot that or fix that or what have you. You have to hope they come across the services that are going to help them. But when someone is looking at you with the evil eye or mocking you or mimicking you or belittling you or minimizing you or always got some kind of backhanded to say, watch that behavior and trust your gut. Discernment will carry you far. And sometimes discernment can help extend your life because there are people out here who will truly do you harm. Anyway, I don't, in my opinion, I don't ever minimize the impact of knowing the risks out there and maneuvering accordingly. You can call me paranoid. You can call me, oh, Sharion thinks people are always after such and such, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you this. I am not a blood-born royal. I have not had a target on my head since I was born. I have not been targeted by actual terrorist groups. I have not been deployed to Afghanistan twice, and I'm still looking at people crazy when they get too close to me. So I cannot imagine what Prince Harry and Meghan feel like being so vulnerable when they go to the UK. Which is why every time this conversation of fixations come up, the first thing that crosses my mind is this is exactly why security should be a given. It shouldn't even be questioned. The person who first came up with that idea of like, why don't we strike their security? I think that person should have been kicked in the face. I think there should be an automatic rule that all within 10 feet of this person have to jump them and drag them across the concrete face down, because that is a crazy suggestion. I don't care what you are upset with a person about. They should not have to pay with their life. Anywho, the music timed really well on that. That was not intentional. But anyway, we have one more segment. But before we do, if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are watching and have not already. For our last topic of today's live stream, we'll be reading an article from Marie Claire written by Amy McElden titled Palace Source Claims King Charles is Offering Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex Time at His Most Personal Residence in an Enormous Gesture. Inside palace walls, the idea is proving divisive. I have a lot of thoughts about this. And Patreon, I think we're going to go a little bit more in depth on this because this feels like one of those Patreon topics that we like to get into, but yeah, we'll get there. King Charles's reconciliation with his son, Prince Harry, might be progressing, according to royal sources. Again, do with that what you will, everybody. In September 2025, the estranged father and son met at Clarence House in London for a private tea. Now, the king has reportedly made an enormous gesture which could allegedly end the royal rift for good. Writing on his Substack, royal expert Rob Shooter revealed, quote, King Charles III is quietly considering a dramatic and deeply personal move to mend his fractured relationship with Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex, opening the gates of his most private sanctuary, Balmoral Castle. A palace source told Shooter, this is Charles's most personal residence. They continued, offering Harry and Meghan time at Balmoral is an enormous gesture. It signals trust, forgiveness, and a genuine desire to heal. Now, when they start with that, it signals forgiveness. Forgiveness from and for whom? The only person or persons in position to forgive is Harry and Meghan. And that can only be signaled by Harry and Meghan. They are the only two in this situation regarding them and the royal family who have forgiveness to offer or withhold, and that lies solely with them. They were aggrieved. They were mishandled. They were mistreated. They were abused. And it has lasted years. Even in this title, it acknowledged that there was divisiveness amongst treating them well. How are they the abusers if they can't even determine how anyone is treated outside of themselves? Hell, they can't even determine how they are treated by that family. They are not in the position of power in that situation. They are the vulnerable parties in that dynamic, and they are being abused. So whose forgiveness are we talking about here? Because it isn't up to the abuser to forgive the victim. It's up to the victims to forgive the abusers and the enablers. This is that type of interwoven language that tries to sway how and who you align with and why you align with those people. They muddy the waters. Do you remember me saying I genuinely dislike when people see two people arguing and say, well, it's a both sides issue just because there are two participants in the argument or disagreement? That's not always the case. Defending the harmed and defending the vulnerable, defending people who are being oppressed is not a both sides issue. That is survival. Start with the aggressor. Start with the person who provoked the issue. Start with the person who is doing the oppressing. That is intentional. However, not everyone is on board with the idea, according to Shooter. Inside palace walls, the idea is proving divisive, he explained. According to Shooter, Harry and Meghan would be invited to stay during select family gatherings, a carefully calibrated olive branch designed to show the door to reconciliation is still open. Again, reconciliation cannot be fostered from the abuser. That can only be fostered from the victims. Are they willing to hear you out? What are you presenting? What are you proposing? How are you presenting this? But only they can offer forgiveness. Only they can allow you in, not the other way around. You harmed them, so you must make it right. Your actions created the division. Now it's time for you to mend the fence that you broke, not the other way around. I genuinely don't like when people do this. Unfortunately, one source claimed that some members of the royal family are unhappy about the alleged decision. Y'all, it's the usual suspects. William is strongly opposed. Of course he is. He believes it's too much, too soon, and fears it could reopen wounds that have barely begun to heal. Again, the abusers don't have wounds to heal. And we know that he's not considering Harry and Meghan's feelings. Despite facing some alleged pushback from family members, the king appears resolute. Per Shooter. With the royal divide now stretching across years and continents, Charles reportedly sees this as one of the last meaningful gestures left, not as monarch, but as a father. As a royal source claimed to the publication, he knows time is precious. This is about family, not protocol. Perhaps 2026 will be the year of royal reconciliation. The only royals I care about are doing just fine. They seem fine. Now, sorry for the abrupt stop. Now, like I said in the video, it really bothers me when people try to subvert blame in that way, when they try to switch the blame and make it seem as if Harry and Meghan need to earn forgiveness for speaking out. I just want to say this to anyone who may be listening to this or watching this, and you may be a victim of any harm done. People will try to manipulate you into thinking that sharing your story is wrong and it harms the abuser because they deserve to have privacy or you don't want to ruin how they look to other people. I want dismiss all of that. And you can tell them I said it. You can say, blame it on me. You can say whatever you want to. Make me dramatic. I don't care. You can say, there's a crazy lady on YouTube named Sharion, and she said to tell you to go to hell, because my story is mine and I have every right to talk about it as much or as little as I want to, because if you didn't want me to own the story, you shouldn't have included me in your nonsense. You abruptly forced me into something that I did not want to be in. You did something to me that in and of itself makes it my story, and I can share it as much as I want to. If you want me to remember you differently, then behave like you got some damn sense. And unless you want to behave like you got some sense, unless you want to confess and put it out there, if you want to own the story and tell the truth to the world, then leave me alone and leave me to it while I do it. Tell the truth and shame the devil. And yes, your abuser is one of them devils. I feel very strongly about not only harming someone, but then trying to silence them, as if you haven't already done enough, as if you haven't already caused enough. You want to tell me what I can do with a story that I shouldn't have had to endure, an experience I should not have had to have. The best I can do, the least I can do is share what happened. You better be glad I don't want revenge. If I had 2 minutes with Harry or Meghan and they said, you can say whatever you want to say to me, Sharion, just no holds barred, I would say, go kick each and every one of them in the face. I'll buy the boots. We have a Lucchese right at the end of the block. Let's go. I'll drive. Like, I would offer whatever services and conveniences I could, but I would also help them. I'd say, you want me to help? I have some big steppers on these feet. I'll do it. Just say the word. Because at the end of the day, you're over here crying and bemoaning the fact that I shared a tale when you're not even focusing on the details of the story. If you hadn't harmed me, there would be nothing to tell. The fact that people try to turn that into it makes me crazy. I told y'all before, I had that experience. It's a sensitive thing. I had that experience where someone was doing something horrible to me at work, just consistently nitpicking and bothering me. And when I would stand up for myself, I would be told that you both need to try to work together. And when I would say, well, no, this person is doing something to me and I'm responding, have them stop doing this to me. And my boss, Jill, said, well, it's a toxic cycle. It's a cycle with a very clear beginning. This person is treating me very differently than everyone else in the office. This person is being wildly microaggressive. And when I respond saying, hey, that was a microaggressive statement, and they would say, well, that hurt my feelings and called me a bully, that's not a toxic cycle, because it has a very clear beginning. That's called consequences. That's called a justifiable response. That's called self-advocation. I can advocate for myself. That is not bullying. That is not putting someone's business out there. That is not harming someone. That's not making up a story. That's not making up a lie. That's telling the truth. And if telling the truth about you paints you in a bad light, guess what and who you are? You are a bad person. People can tell the truth about how they've experienced me in every season of my life, and I will vouch for it if it's true. And if it's not true, I'll leave that between them and their God. You have to answer for lying on me. But what I won't do is say, hey, just because I harmed you doesn't mean you can tell everybody. That's just another leg of abuse, though. So for people trying to perpetuate this entire idea that Harry and Meghan owe apologies or need to earn forgiveness, etc., I want them to truly choke on those words. Let me stop, because I'm getting mad. Because it's not like we haven't been watching this happen for years and they haven't stopped. It'd be different. It wouldn't be different, but it would be less impactful if we were talking about this in retrospect. Those people are still churning out negative lies. I was about to say stories. They're still churning out negative lies about Harry and Meghan as we speak. They are still competing with two people who could not be less interested in what they've got going on over there. They are still in a one-sided competition and managing to stay in the losing position. That's not Harry and Meghan's fault. That's their fault. They are also hyper fixated. Since we're talking about fixations, the royals are fixated. Their entire legion of media personnel that they have on payroll are fixated. The people who hate them are fixated. They are stuck in a drama loop. And what they cannot stand is that Harry and Meghan have substance outside and away from them, so much so that they are highly regarded within the world, throughout the world, more so than those people. They don't need that drama to sell magazines and sell projects and sell books and doing it. They can simply tell the truth, wipe their hands of it, and move on, as they have done. Because what they have is the substance. They are the draw. Those people wanted to own Harry and Meghan with that story. They wanted to be able to control them. They wanted to be able to control what they said and did. They wanted to be able to suppress them so bad. It makes them sick that Harry and Meghan don't have to succumb to that. They don't need them to survive. It sucks though for them, not for Harry, Meghan, or us, but it sucks for them that not only did they not need them to survive, but they are thriving and doing much better than them without all the resources and hundreds of years of a head start. Do you know how foolish they have to feel? That's what they get. Anyway, I said all that to say it's one thing to harm somebody, but to tell a person that they don't have the right to tell other people, that bothers me. Someone recently, or not recently, a year ago, asked me if I planned to go to some activity that was being hosted by someone who I am not in contact with. I had a major falling out with this person. I finally accepted them for who they were. They are in my family, and I have always highly regarded them and treated them with respect. And I've worked really hard to look past some of their faults until those faults started to harm me. And throughout my childhood, throughout my early adulthood, I looked past it because I assumed I was misunderstanding. And then in my 30s, I said, y'all were right about what happens in your 30s. In my 30s, I was way more honest with myself. And I said, oh, look out, world. Because once I became honest with myself, I stopped tolerating a lot of nonsense. So I advocated for myself, and that ended the relationship. Great. Well, someone else, an enabler, a flying monkey, called and said, hey, this person is hosting an activity. Would you like to come? Oh, no, she said, well, I see you there. And I said, oh, no, I don't know what that person's got going on. Please don't feel like you have to share, and I won't be going to anything that person does. She said, why? I said, this person tried to get me to miss the last moments with my grandfather. They knew my grandfather was dying and tried to get other people to not tell me. They wanted me to miss saying goodbye. I won't ever break bread with that person again. So please don't ask. Now, that was as nice as that was about to get. And this person said, you need to just leave all that alone. You got to let that go. Look past it. So see how it can easily spiral into you cut one person off and then the rest just see themselves out. But it also gave me insight into why it took me so long to see it, because a lot of very nasty, negative, hateful people have a lot of people around them enabling that behavior and trying to keep that toxic structure in place. But I've never been more proud of myself than when I said, to hell with you too, and went on about my business. I'm telling y'all 30s come in hot. I'm usually a very kind of polite person and just, oh, well, I can take one for the team. But when it comes to serious things like that, no more taking it for the team. You have to do what's best for you. And if people are intent on harming you, you have to get away from them. Protect yourself, because sometimes others won't. But I say that to say the whole suppression practice, the whole diverting attention, the whole deflecting the blame back to you, it's just so heinous in nature. Is it not bad enough that you did something unforgivable to me, that you now have to send people to try to rub salt into the wound? And people will look at you like you're crazy because you say, I don't want to tolerate abuse. I don't want to tolerate mistreatment. I don't want to be around someone with bad intentions for me. That doesn't make me crazy. That makes me sane. In what world would I want to sit next to a hungry tiger? That's what that's like. Someone who does not mean you well and someone who wishes you harm, sitting next to them, they are feasting upon you, your well-being, your mental health, your energy. They are siphoning the best of you. You don't need to die to stress at no early age or even an older age. Stress will kill you. You do not have time to be tangoing with these people. They will dance on your grave and move on to the next victim. You get away from those people. I have never been more proud of two public figures than when Harry and Meghan sat down for that Oprah interview, because I guarantee you, well, I don't have to guarantee, I know they know. At the time I saw that happening, I said, oh my God, they are up against a machine. They are up against something that has allegedly claimed lives. No one knows that better than Prince Harry. They are sitting down for this. They are doing this. Whew, I can't tell you. I feel like I held my breath throughout that whole interview. I stayed on my phone for a good 48 hours after that. Just kept them in the front of my mind because I know the stakes are very high. I was so proud of them. And I feel like not only was I proud of them, but what that said to other people who have had a hard time or have struggled or dealing with enablers and flying monkeys themselves, of people who turn it around and say, I know they did this thing, but that's family. That's your mama. That's your daddy. They have to, sometimes they make mistakes. You have to forgive. Family is forgiveness. Yes, you can forgive your family for doing things. You can forgive your families for blips in the system and moments of time. But consistent, prolonged, and intentional abuse is not something that I feel like the weight of forgiveness should be on your shoulders. You have more to do. Like, get back to loving yourself. If you tango with these crazy people, these abusers for too long, you will lose you in the process, and they are no replacement for you. There are a lot of people who have spent so long trying to figure it out with their mama and trying to figure it out with their daddy and trying to save their sister and trying to reach their brother and trying to redeem their uncle and trying to figure it out with their husband or their wife or whomever and try to get him to stop cheating and try to get him to act right. You spend so much time out here chasing down these crazy fools that you are literally losing your life in the process. You'll look up 10, 12, 15, 20 years later and be like, where the hell have I been this whole time? Have I really been chasing after you? Is that really where I have been? Have I really been trying to get you to act right all that time? I could have been learning a skill. I could have been learning a new industry. I could have gotten another degree. I could have been raising a child. I could have gotten a puppy. I could have been out here living. Can you imagine if the royals had claimed another day of Harry and Meghan's time? I can tell you what that would look like. Zoom out for a second. You go to Sussex.com and you just scroll down the list of things that they have done. If you look at all the things that they have done in the last 6 years, not even really a full 6 yet, but in the last 5 and some change years, and you look at all the amazing things they've done, and then I want you to factor in all the things we don't know about yet, and think about all the people. Drill down a bit. Think about all the people who have been positively impacted by all of the things that they have done, all the things they've worked on, all the things they've contributed, all the things that they have, all the money they've donated, all the people they have touched, all the lives they've touched and improved through all their advocacy and philanthropy. If they had spent another day chasing down those fools in the royal family and trying to gain their approval and get their validation and figure it out with them, if they had spent another moment of their time playing their game, there are so many people out here who will be in that much more hardship. They got out of there and got back in alignment, and the world has blossomed in response. They have done some amazing things, and this isn't just about Harry and Meghan. This is about whoever I may be speaking to. If you are going through something, if you are dealing with something or somebody, if you have that going on and you're like, he young, everybody cheat. No, everybody does not cheat. Or, he's my dad. He old. He's always going to be like that. Old dog don't learn new tricks. I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't matter if they old, if they young, if they new, if they old, if they fresh, if they rancid, if they rotten, whatever they are and whoever they are. If they wanted to treat you right, they simply would. And you can use yourself as an example. If you were sitting next to your boss right now and your boss says, hey, the next 24 hours will determine if you get a raise or not. I'm going to double your salary. How would you act? You'd find the incentive then. You figure it out then. Replace your boss and that incentivization with someone else who simply looks at you and say, hey, if you treat me better, we could have a better relationship. Or it hurts me when you act like that. Now, how would you act? Is the incentive not high enough? Is it not good enough? Is it not worth it? This person's well-being, is it worth it? That's all the answer you need. If your well-being was worth it to that person, they would treat you like they felt that way. So a person's behavior towards you tells you everything you need to know about how they feel about you and what their intent is. Because I tell you what, the people I love, my intent is for them to have a happy, healthy life and for me to always be contributing to that. There are certain things in certain ways that I would never speak to my niece and nephew. There's certain things I would never say to them. There's certain ways I would never speak to them. There are certain ways I would never approach them. I would burn in hell before I crushed my niece's spirit or hurt my nephew's feelings intentionally. I would never do that. You couldn't pay me enough money. So when I zoom out and I think about how I love them so much that everything that comes out of my mouth towards them runs through a filter, and then I think about how my people have treated me, that's all the reasons I need it. Like, oh, because every time they're nasty or mean or do something horrible to you, they're basically just saying how they feel about you. Believe them the first time. And that can be hard to say. I'm not saying that's the easy process, but I am saying what Harry and Meghan did was a signal to the world that it is not okay to tolerate abuse, no matter who you are, family or not. And I should even say, being family should incentivize them to not harm you. They should be least likely to cause harm intentionally. And I've harmed people by accident. I've said things that hurt people's feelings. I can't remember what I asked my niece, but it's hard to read tone in text message. And I think I had said something and she thought I was being very dry with her. Oh, she said, I thought you were mad at me because usually you put hearts and stuff on your text messages. Did I do something? Are you upset with me? And I was like, oh, no, sweetie, I probably was just getting in my car and just trying to hurry up and respond. I'm so sorry, because usually I am a lot more warm. I think I was just trying to get her answer quick because she was trying to do something. And she doubled back. But what it told me was, I'm so glad I fostered a relationship with her where she can not confront me, but actually question me about my state of being towards her and not feel like she has to walk on eggshells. But then too, before I hit send, I go add me a couple emojis because I know she's going to be watching. But now I say that to say, she even clocked that I seemed a little bit off, and I immediately corrected that. I was like, oh no, I don't want you to feel that way, my love. And I immediately fixed that. It's just an emoji, but to her, it's a signal of how I'm feeling. It's imperative that if it's a small adjustment for me, but a big impact for her, I'm happy to do it. But that's because I want to. And again, when I think of that, and then I weigh the factor of how other people treat me, I think of that. If it's something small, it's a small adjustment. Why can't they just make it? It's because they don't want to. They would rather ask you to be more complacent and more and be more passive about it than actually have to be challenged to change their behavior. So anyway, I have to get to some of these comments. We will continue the discussion, but please continue commenting in the live chat. We'll continue the discussion. Hi, Shelly Miranda. Shelly Miranda says, nothing shocks me anymore about these people. Weren't the victims children as well? And I believe this was in reference to our second segment about the person heckling William and Kate about being close with Andrew. And yes, thank you, Shelly Miranda. You are absolutely right. The victims of Epstein and Andrew were children. So to say, oh, well, there are children present. Thank you for making my point. The world should be safer for children, should it not? I promise you, this child will be okay if I yell in front of them, but they won't be okay if Andrew and Epstein had gotten a hold of them. Be more concerned about that and the people who enable that. Hi, Gwen Daniel. Gwen Daniel says, Charles is a senseless idiot. He could care less about Harry and his beautiful family. No notes, all truth, all facts. He is. All of this, in my opinion, all of this, the little Rob Shooter tip, all of this is PR. And I feel like they use a lot of that to test the waters. They try to see how people are going to respond, and then they go in that direction. That's just my feeling. Hi, Rositas Cositas. Rosita says, yeah, that's some bullcrap. Charles has offered nothing. Announcing his gestures is just to generate some positive PR. Now, before I move on to the rest of your comment, I want to pause here too. This is something that bugs me in my own life. When people tell me what they're going to do instead of just doing it. It's almost like they want the credit without the effort. It makes me crazy. Don't tell me what you're about to do. Surprise me with what you did. How about that? Rositas continues and says, Harry said he wanted a public apology. All these gestures are empty and meaningless without first starting with that apology. Start with that apology and change that behavior. I could not agree more. Besides, as Royal Reed says, you can't eat everybody's food. I'd be worried they would poison the food if the Sussexes were to stay at a royal residence. This again. 100%. I cannot agree more. You have got to protect yourself. There are people who will truly do you harm. And the thing is, I was just actually talking about this on TikTok. It is so hard to move through the world with the vulnerability of being joyful, because being joyful is vulnerable, because you are sharing your authentic self with the world. And there is nothing most of the world hates more than a happy, authentic person. People will try their best to chew you up and spit you out. You have to be, when you are joyful and inherently positive and you want what's best for people, you have to be equal parts happy, joyful, authentic, and protective. It's almost like at a moment's notice, you have to be ready because they will be coming. And it's just so hard to live that way. It's so sad. But when that starts happening in your own family, in your own networks, within your own communities, goodness gracious, my heart goes out to you. Hi, Gwen Daniel. Gwen Daniel says, I'm sick of clueless Kate and pegging William. Both are stupid and useless. I agree. They don't offer anything. They are really sticking to this 1901 playbook of what a royal is. I mean, even the clothes, the hairstyles. I mean, honestly, I'll say this though. I am glad Kate went back to her usual and left Meghan's look alone, because that copying was getting on my nerves. It still doesn't suit her, but I don't like that she was trying to co-opt Meghan's look. But even their clothes, their hairstyles, the way they behave, it's all so manufactured and inauthentic, and it doesn't even look genuine. As soon as those separation rumors came out, then William started dropping little jokes about him living at Forest Lodge. Like, we see right through you. And the more you protest, the less it looks real. Like, just stop. Just go do something real with your resources and your time. It's not that hard. Gwen Daniel says, I know the feeling, Sharion. That happened with my mom, her side of the family. I don't deal with them. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, I'm sorry that you experienced that. I know the feeling, and it is so frustrating. People get very weird around deaths and funerals and weddings and things like that. And it's never made any sense to me. I feel like those are times where people should come closer, should get closer, should start nurturing those bonds more, get through it together. But people get really territorial, and it is a heartbreaking thing to witness. Hi, Gael Lewis. Gael says, it took me a lot longer, Sharion, but better late than never. We have to advocate for our well-being. I'm so sorry that you experienced that, but I'm so happy that you got there. There is no timeline. I'm glad you got there in time to save yourself. And that's all that really matters. Absolutely. So that is all I have for you today. We have gone through so many topics, and I have talked y'all's ears off. I know there are other live streams starting soon. So I will just say thank y'all so much for joining today's live stream. I hope you enjoyed the segments. Tomorrow we have a video coming out. I know I don't usually do videos on Saturdays, but we had a lot to discuss. I've already given you a little preview at the top of the live stream, so feel free to go check out that little summary. But we've got a lot to get into tomorrow. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.